movement that caused the war against Rome. He's more forthcoming about Judas the Galilean. He identifies people with Judas the Galilean who founded the Zealot movement, supposedly, one person called Zadok, or Zadok. Doesn't talk much about him, but he brings him in. He mentions characters called Theudas, who we didn't mention earlier. He mentions James, the brother of Jesus, who we didn't mention earlier. He also mentions John the Baptist, whom we didn't mention earlier. So he's got a lot of extra material in the antiquities they didn't have in the Jewish book. I hope I'm not boring you too much with this information. I'm just trying to fill in the background here. So this is from the Antiquities. This is written in 93, and it wasn't in the earlier work. So here it is. Herod lost his kingdom, the Jews thought, because of what he did to John the Baptist, or at least the war that was fought after John the Baptist. He fought a war with the Arabian king Aretas. He mentions him at the beginning. And he says, he divorced his former wife, who was the daughter of Aretas, king of Arabia. You see that? It's in chapter 11. Who is this Herod? What's his name? They're all Herods. That's what's so confusing to people studying the New Testament. So they think maybe it's Herod the Great. Maybe they have no idea which Herod they're talking about. How will you find out which Herod these things are? There's only one place to find out. Where is that? Josephus. You can't understand, even begin to understand the New Testament without total confusion without going to Josephus. Because all these Herods look like they're the same, and they're not. They're all different people. Oh, which Herod is this? It's the character sometimes called Herod Antipas. That's his real name. Named after Herod's father, obviously, Antipater. Or also called at one point in the Gospels and in Josephus, I think, as well. And in the book of Acts, anyway. He certainly called this the book of Acts. Herod the Tetrarch. Meaning Herod, who was had a fourth of the area as his provinces. Turns out the provinces he had were Galilee and Perea. If you have my James book, all that is in maps in the back. But there's other books that have those maps, Galilee and Perea. Perea is the area across the Jordan River in what we call Transjordan today. So you say, so he had the two provinces of Galilee and Perea. He didn't have Jerusalem. Now in the Gospels, certainly in Luke anyway, who shows a lot of knowledge of Josephus, the others less. There's an intervening interview with Herod in between the trial before the Sanhedrin and the final condemnation by Pontius Pilate. There's an interview that Herod has with Jesus. How many are familiar with that in the Gospel of Luke? It's in there. It's not in the other Gospels. Because, again, Luke likes to show off his knowledge of Josephus. And he knows there was a Herod that was involved in affairs then. But you see, Herod didn't have responsibility for Jerusalem, that Herod. His responsibility was Galilee, but I think the pretense in Luke is since he came from Galilee, they should let him interview him too. That's what Luke is trying to basically imply. I don't know, I forget what the outcome of that interview is, but I don't think it's particularly negative because none of the Herodians are really, except killing all the Jewish children, none of the Herodians are really shown to be terribly negative in the Gospels. The Gospels are careful not to insult officials beyond absolutely necessary. Pilate is obviously a bad person, but he's presented as well as he can be presented under the circumstances. That is, he didn't really want to do this. And his wife had a dream telling him that this was a righteous man and that he shouldn't do this. And therefore we set the stage for the Jews forcing the Roman government to do these things, which is preposterous. But it's all deflecting. You you say, well, come on, now you're being cruel here. Yeah, well, if you take the scripture as authentic history, then that is cruel. If you take the scripture simply as faith documents, then it's not cruel. But if you want to do history, then you have to take all the documents equally. One can't be supernatural, divine document, and all the others fallible documents. They all have to be arranged together, and then you'll see that the Roman governors would not be swayed, certainly not someone like Pilate, by what any Jews told him. And that's the point here, too, in the John the Baptist thing. The point of the gospel presentation, again, deflect criticism from Roman or Herodian officials. Here, once again, I think in the Gospels, the Herodian official or king or tetrarch or whatever he is, doesn't really want to do this, but a sexy young lady sways him, and she's the one who asks for John's head, because John's been nasty about her mother. It's a plausible plot, but I don't think it holds up, and it's contradicted by Josephus here. And here's Josephus' presentation. Why do you like it? You just like it, Professor Eisenman, because it suits you. No, I think it makes more sense. I mean, people like Dick Cheney. Let's say Dick Cheney is Herod here. Dick Cheney isn't going to be swayed because someone does a dance in front of him. That would be ludicrous to think that's going to happen with someone like Dick Cheney. Someone is solid and totally, practically minded. Yeah, he's going to worry because some woman, he'll do what he thinks is politically expedient to do. He's not going to be swayed by a woman doing a dance.
What about Clinton?
Clinton, maybe. Clinton wouldn't get to be a Roman official, I don't think. Only an American official. Anyway, it's a good point. Some of the Jews, the army of Herod, seem to have, you'll have to weigh your own life if this is Bill Clinton here or Dick Cheney, okay? Some of the Jews, the army of Herod, seem to have been destroyed by God. That is because Herod lost this battle with Aretas, who was angry about what he did to his daughter. And this is Herod Antipas, Herod the Tetrarch. For Herod had slain John the Baptist. This was vengeance for John. So the Jews are for John. And they like the fact that Herod has had vengeance inflicted on him for what he did to John. So that's right outright. John is supported by. We had a discussion here the other day about whether, I don't know if I brought my gospel this time, but I think I did. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, I don't have it. I had a harmony where I want to show the different presentations of the